Dr. Ben Carter stared at the wall covered in papers, charts, and photos of alien ships. His office looked like a tornado had hit a library. Coffee cups sat everywhere, some still warm, others growing green stuff that might have been science experiments. "This is impossible," said Sophie Wright, tossing another failed design onto the growing pile of rejected ideas. Sophie was the best engineer on Earth when it came to building things that shouldn't work, but somehow did. Right now, even she looked defeated. Danny Kim sat in the corner, typing numbers into his computer so fast his fingers were a blur. As Earth's top physicist, he understood how the universe worked better than almost anyone. "The energy readings don't make sense," he muttered. "Their weapons could turn our entire planet into space dust." Ben rubbed his tired eyes. They had been working for 2 weeks straight, trying to find a way to fight an enemy with technology 1,000 years ahead of humanity. Every plan they came up with ended the same way, Earth turning into a cloud of hot gas. "What if we're thinking about this wrong?" Ben said suddenly. Sophie looked up from her pile of papers. "What do you mean?" "We keep trying to match their technology. But what if our weakness is actually our strength?" Danny stopped typing. "I don't follow." Ben walked to the window and looked out at the city below. People were going about their daily lives, not knowing that death was coming from the stars. "Look at us. Humans are messy. We build things wrong. We make mistakes. We do stuff that makes no sense." "That's supposed to help us how?" Sophie asked. "Think about it," Ben said, getting excited. "These aliens have perfect technology, perfect ships, perfect formations. They probably have perfect battle plans, too. But what happens when you fight an enemy that doesn't follow any rules?" Danny's eyes lit up. "You mean fight in ways they can't predict?" "Exactly," Ben said. "Their computers probably have models for every type of warfare ever invented, but they can't model crazy." Sophie stood up, papers falling from her lap. "You want us to fight them with stupid tactics?" "Not stupid," Ben said. "Random, chaotic, unpredictable. We use our biggest weakness as our biggest weapon." The room went quiet. Outside, a garbage truck rumbled past, playing a cheerful tune as it collected trash. The sound gave Ben an idea. "Sophie, what's the most ridiculous weapon you can think of?" Sophie thought for a moment. A garbage truck loaded with explosives?" "Perfect." "Danny, could a garbage truck hurt one of their ships?" Danny did some quick math in his head. "If it hit them fast enough, maybe, but they'd see it coming and shoot it down." "What if we launched 1,000 garbage trucks at the same time? From different directions, along with school buses, ice cream, trucks, and delivery vans?" Sophie's eyes went wide. "They wouldn't know what to shoot first. And while they're confused, we hit them with the real weapons," Danny added. Ben grabbed a marker and started drawing on the whiteboard. "We take every piece of junk we can find, old satellites, broken space stations, defunct rockets. We strap bombs to them and launch them in the most random pattern possible." "That's the craziest plan I've ever heard," Sophie said. "Good," Ben replied. "If we think it's crazy, imagine how confused they'll be." Word of the plan spread quickly through Earth's military command. Most of the generals thought Ben had lost his mind, but General Kevin Stone was desperate enough to try anything. "You want to attack a superior alien force with garbage?" General Stone asked during the video conference. "Not just garbage," Ben said. "Chaos. We turn our entire defense into one big confusing mess. No battle plans, no coordination, just pure, random madness. And you think this will work?" "It's the only thing that might work. They're prepared for logical warfare. They're not prepared for us to weaponize stupidity. General Stone was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he sighed. God help us all. Do it. Within hours, the plan was in motion. Commander Alex Turner volunteered to lead the first squadron. Alex was known for being just crazy enough to try anything once. He gathered a group of pilots who were equally willing to fly directly into certain death. Listen up, Alex told his volunteers. We're going to take a bunch of civilian ships, fill them with the weirdest weapons we can find, and attack the most advanced alien fleet in the galaxy. Anyone who thinks this is a bad idea can leave now. Nobody left. Casey Morgan raised her hand. Casey was one of the best pilots in the Earth Defense Force, which meant she was also one of the craziest. What kind of weird weapons are we talking about? Alex grinned. Kitchen appliances, construction tools, sports equipment, anything that might confuse their sensors. Can I volunteer my little brother's remote control helicopter? Asked pilot Jake Miller. Load it with firecrackers and you've got a deal, Alex replied. The preparation was unlike anything in military history. Engineers worked around the clock to weaponize the most unlikely objects. Microwave ovens were rigged to explode at random intervals. Lawnmowers were converted into kinetic missiles. Even children's toys were turned into tiny bombs. Dr. Carter watched the chaos from his lab and smiled. This was exactly what humanity needed, a complete rejection of logic and order. How's it going? Sophie asked as she walked in carrying a box of modified kitchen equipment. Better than I hoped, Ben said. The pilots are coming up with ideas I never would have thought of. Like what? Commander Turner wants to use a food truck as his command ship. He says the aliens will never expect military orders to come from something that sells hamburgers? Sophie laughed. That's either brilliant or completely insane. Probably both. Meanwhile, Casey Morgan was training her squadron in the art of random flying. Instead of military formations, they practiced flying in patterns that looked like drunken birds. Instead of coordinated attacks, they rehearsed bumping into each other and apologizing over the radio. Remember, Casey told her pilots, if you think you're flying badly, you're doing it right. We want to look like we have no idea what we're doing. That shouldn't be hard, muttered pilot Steve Rodriguez. I actually have no idea what we're doing. Perfect, Casey replied. As the alien fleet got closer, Earth's defenders prepared for the most unusual battle in human history. Factories that usually made cars were now building kinetic weapons disguised as delivery trucks. Shipyards that built cruise ships were constructing warships that looked like floating shopping malls. The aliens were still months away, but Earth was transforming into something unprecedented, a planet-sized practical joke with nuclear weapons. Dr. Carter stood in his lab late one night, looking at the latest reports. The plan was working better than he had dared hope. Humanity was embracing chaos with the enthusiasm of children at a playground. Sir? Sophie's voice came from the doorway. The first squadron is ready for final testing. Ben nodded. How do they look? Sophie grinned. Like the most ridiculous military force ever assembled. The aliens are going to think we've completely lost our minds. Good, Ben said, because we have. Captain Jake Harrison floated in front of the main screen at Olympus 7 station. The coffee in his cup moved in slow circles as he spun it gently. Outside the thick windows, space looked empty and dark. Stars twinkled like tiny diamonds scattered across black velvet. It was just another quiet day at the edge of the solar system. Anything interesting out there today, Lisa? Jake asked the woman sitting at the communications desk. Lisa Martinez had been working the night shift for 3 years. She knew the difference between space noise and real signals better than anyone. "Same old stuff, Captain," Lisa said without looking up from her screens. "Solar wind from our sun, some radio waves from Jupiter, and the usual chatter from Earth. Nothing exciting." Ryan Brooks sat at the tactical station nearby. He spent his days watching for asteroids and space junk that might threaten Earth. Most days. He found nothing bigger than a golf ball. Today felt like one of those days. Jake took a sip of his coffee and made a face. The recycled water on the station always tasted metallic. He missed real Earth coffee, the kind that came from actual beans grown in real soil. But someone had to watch the outer edges of human space, and Olympus 7 was the best listening post they had. The station was not much to look at. It had been built from spare parts and old ship hulls 20 years ago. The walls were gray metal, and everything hummed with the sound of air recyclers and computer fans. But the sensors were top quality, able to detect a whisper from across the solar system. "Hey, Captain," Ryan called out. His voice sounded different, less bored. "I'm getting some weird readings on long range." Jake pushed himself over to Ryan's station. In zero gravity, moving was more like swimming through air. "What kind of weird?" Ryan pointed at his screen. Numbers scrolled past, too fast to read. "Energy signatures. Big ones. They're still way out there, but they're moving this way." "How? Big?" Jake asked. He had seen plenty of false alarms. Solar flares looked scary on sensors until you figured out what they were. "Really big," Ryan said. He typed some commands and the screen changed. Now it showed a star map with tiny dots moving toward the center. "And there are a lot of them." Lisa looked up from her station. "I'm not getting any radio signals from that direction. Whatever they are, they're not talking." Jake felt something cold move through his stomach. In space, things that didn't talk were usually not good news. "How many is a lot?" Ryan's fingers danced over his keyboard. The computer thought for a moment, then displayed a number. Jake read it twice to make sure he was seeing it right. 412 objects, Ryan said quietly. "All moving in formation. All heading straight for Earth." The coffee cup slipped from Jake's hand. It floated away, spinning slowly, coffee drops spreading like brown stars in the air. No one moved to catch it. "Are you sure?" Jake asked. Ryan checked his readings again. "Computer says 98% certain. These aren't asteroids, Captain. They're moving too fast and too straight. And they're all the same size." Jake's mind raced. The only things that moved in perfect formation were ships, but humans had never built 400 ships that big. The largest human vessel was the size of a city block. According to Ryan's readings, each of these objects was the size of Manhattan. "Lisa, get me Earth Command right now," Jake ordered. "Priority 1 emergency channel." Lisa's hands flew over her controls. "Earth Command, this is Olympus 7. We have a Priority 1 emergency transmission for immediate relay to Defense Command." The reply came back in less than 30 seconds. "Olympus 7, this is Earth Command. You are cleared for priority transmission. Go ahead." Jake took a deep breath. "Earth Command. We have detected a large formation of unknown objects approaching our solar system. Repeat, unknown objects inbound to Earth." There was a long pause. Then a different voice came on the radio, older and more serious. "Olympus 7, this is General Kevin Stone. Please transmit all sensor data immediately." Ryan was already preparing the data package. "Sending now, General." Another pause. Jake could picture the chaos starting at Earth Command as people tried to figure out what they were dealing with. 400 ships was bigger than every human fleet combined. Olympus 7, hold your position and continue monitoring. Do not transmit any signals toward the unknown objects. Earth command out. The radio went quiet. Jake, Lisa, and Ryan looked at each other in the silence. Outside the windows, space looked the same as always, peaceful and empty. But somewhere out there, something was coming. How long until they get here? Jake asked. Ryan did some quick math. At their current speed, about 6 months. 6 months. Jake thought about his wife and daughter back on Earth. 6 months to figure out if humanity was about to meet friendly neighbors or face an invasion. Lisa, send a message to Dr. Amy Collins at the Science Institute. Tell her we need her to look at this data right away. Dr. Collins was the smartest person Jake knew when it came to figuring out alien life. If anyone could understand what they were dealing with, it was her. Over the next few hours, more data came in. The objects were definitely artificial. They moved with purpose and precision that no natural formation could match. They maintained perfect distances from each other, like a military parade in space. Dr. Collins called back 3 hours later. Her voice sounded tired and worried. Captain Harrison, I've analyzed your data. These ships are using technology we don't understand. The energy patterns suggest power sources far beyond anything we've ever built. Ships? Jake asked. You're sure they're ships? I'm sure, Dr. Collins said. And Captain, based on the energy signatures, I think they're armed. Really heavily armed. The kind of weapons that could crack a planet. Jake felt the cold feeling in his stomach grow stronger. Any idea who built them? None at all. But whoever. They're coming here for a reason. And I don't think it's to say hello. The next few days passed in a blur of reports and meetings. Earth's governments were finally talking to each other instead of arguing. The president, the prime ministers, even the colony leaders on Mars were working together for the first time. In decades, Jake stayed at his post, watching the objects get closer every day. They never changed course. They never slowed down. They just kept coming, like a tide of metal and energy rolling toward Earth. On the 5th day, Dr. Ben Carter joined the team. He was Earth's top military scientist, the kind of person who solved impossible problems by thinking in ways that made other people's heads hurt. Captain, Dr. Carter said during their video call, we need to start planning for the worst. If these visitors are hostile, we're going to need every advantage we can get. Jake nodded. What kind of advantages? Dr. Carter smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. The kind that no sane military would ever consider using. 3 weeks before the test day, everything changed. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance looking at his computer screens. Red warning lights flashed all around him. More alien ships had arrived during the night. How many now? Jake asked Lieutenant Alex Turner. Alex counted the dots on his screen. 47 ships, Captain. The Carathian battle fleet just jumped in an hour ago. They have enough firepower to blow up a moon. Jake rubbed his tired eyes. He had not slept well in days. Every morning brought more alien ships. Every day brought more threats. The aliens were getting scared, and scared aliens were dangerous aliens. A message came through the ship radio. It was Ambassador Veltar, the crystal alien who hated humans. His voice sounded like breaking glass mixed with anger. Captain Morrison, you must stop this madness immediately, Veltar said. Your experiment threatens the safety of nearby star systems. We cannot allow you to continue. Jake picked up the radio microphone. Ambassador, we have permission from the Galactic Council. We are working in the neutral zone. We are not breaking any laws. Laws can be changed when public safety is at risk, Veltar replied. Your ship could explode and destroy everything for light years around. We have a duty to protect innocent lives. Down in the engine room, Dr. Lisa Parker was working with Aria to make final adjustments. The ship computer had grown smarter every day. Now Aria seemed almost human in the way she talked and thought. Aria, are the alien ships worrying you? Lisa asked. A little, Aria admitted. But I am more excited than worried. I can feel the path through space-time more clearly now. It is like seeing a hidden door that was always there. Dr. Karen Mills checked the quantum resonance chambers one more time. The energy readings were perfect. Everything was ready for the test. Aria, what will it feel like when we use the send silence drive? I think it will feel like falling upward, Aria said, or like swimming through music. The ship will not move through space the normal way. Instead, we will step outside of space and walk, where only silence can go. Chief Engineer Danny Walsh finished his last safety check. He had tested every bolt, every wire, every computer chip. The ship was as ready as human skill could make it, but he still felt nervous. They were about to try something that had never been done before. "Danny," called Jake over the radio, "come to the bridge. We have a problem." Danny floated up to the bridge where Jake, Alex, and Ben Rodriguez were looking at the main screen. On it was a new message from the alien fleets. They are demanding. "We leave the neutral zone," Ben said. His big hands were clenched into fists. "They say we have 24 hours to pack up and go home. What if we refuse?" Danny asked. "Then they will make us leave," Alex said. 47 ships against 1. Those are not good odds. Jake looked at his crew. These were good people who had worked hard for 6 months. They had left their families on Earth to build something amazing. He could not let the aliens stop them when they were so close. "We test the ship tomorrow," Jake decided. "Ready or not, we are going to find out if this thing works." Dr. Lisa came up to the bridge. "Tomorrow? But we plan to wait another week." "The aliens are not going to give us another week," Jake said. "Aria, are you ready for the test?" Aria's voice came from speakers around the bridge. "Yes, Captain. I have been ready for days. I want to show the galaxy what humans can build." That night, the human crew had their last dinner together before the test. They ate in the ship's small dining room. The food was not fancy, but it tasted good. Everyone was nervous, but they were also excited. "So what happens if this works?" asked Dr. Karen. "Then we change everything," Danny said. "Humans will be able to go anywhere in the galaxy without being seen. No more asking alien permission to travel." "And if it does not work?" asked Lieutenant Alex. "Then we probably die in a big explosion," Ben said with a grin. "But at least we will die trying something amazing." Dr. Lisa laughed. "You humans are all crazy. That is why I like working with you." The next morning came too soon. Jake put on his captain's uniform and walked to the bridge. His crew was already there, getting ready for the test. Everyone looked nervous but determined. "All stations report ready," announced Alex from his navigation computer. "Quantum chambers are stable," reported Karen. "All ship systems are working." "Perfectly," said Danny. "Aria, how do you feel?" Jake asked. "I feel wonderful, Captain," Aria replied. "I can see the path clearly now. It is beautiful and quiet and full of possibilities." Outside the ship, the alien fleets had moved even closer. Some ships were now just outside the neutral zone boundary. They were waiting to see what would happen. Jake sat down in the captain's chair. This was the moment they had all worked toward for 6 months. Everything depended on the next few minutes. Begin the test sequence, Jake ordered. Karen started the quantum resonance chambers. The ship filled with a soft humming sound that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The walls began to glow with blue light. Power levels are rising, Danny reported. All systems are responding normally. I can feel it starting, Aria said. Her voice was full of joy. The silence is calling to us. The humming got louder and more musical. It sounded like a song that no human had ever heard before. The blue light got brighter until it filled every corner of the ship. Aria, activate the send silence drive, Jake commanded. Yes, Captain, Aria said. Here we go. The universe around them changed. It did not happen fast like in the movies. Instead, it happened slowly and smoothly. The stars outside the windows began to fade. The ship did not shake or vibrate. It felt more like they were sinking into warm water. What is happening? Asked Alex, staring at his instruments. We are stepping outside of normal space, Aria explained. The ship is becoming silent to the universe. Soon we will not exist in any place that alien sensors can find. The stars disappeared completely. Outside the windows was not blackness. It was something else. It was the color of silence, if silence had a color. It was peaceful and strange and beautiful. How long until we reach our test destination? Jake asked. We are almost there now, Aria said. 4 light years and 23 minutes. The aliens said this was impossible, but here we are. Jake smiled. In a few minutes, they would appear near the Proxima Centauri star. They would prove that humans could build the impossible. They would show the galaxy that impossible was just another word for something nobody had tried hard enough to achieve. Prepare to return to normal space, Jake ordered. Ready, Captain, Aria said. The aliens are about to get the surprise of their lives. The Zephyrian fleet scattered like frightened animals as Admiral Vax's retreat order echoed through their communication channels. The heavy cruisers turned away from the nightfall at maximum speed, their engines blazing white-hot as they tried to escape from the impossible human ship. All vessels, emergency jump preparation, Vax commanded from the bridge of the Void Render. His hands shook as he gripped the command rail. In 40 years of military service, he had never ordered a retreat. The colonial breaker was running for the first time in his career. But Alex had spent 30 years studying every battle the Zephyrian Empire had ever fought. The AI knew their escape patterns, their emergency procedures, and their tactical weaknesses better than they knew themselves. They are attempting to reach minimum safe distance for hyperspace jump, Alex informed Jake and his crew. Standard Zephyrian doctrine requires them to travel 0.7 light minutes from any gravitational interference before engaging their jump drives. Jake watched the tactical display as the enemy ships spread out in different directions. Can they escape? No, Alex replied simply. I have calculated their probable escape vectors. They are following predictable patterns. The nightfall moved with deadly grace, positioning itself between the fleeing ships and their escape routes. The ship's experimental engines allowed it to accelerate faster than anything the Zephyrians had ever seen. Lisa Campbell stared at the readings on her scanner. How are we moving this fast? The acceleration should crush us. My propulsion system generates localized gravitational fields, Alex explained. The crew compartments remain in normal space-time while the ship itself moves through folded space. You experience no acceleration effects. Danny Rodriguez watched as the nightfall cut off the escape route of 3 escort ships. This is incredible. We're outmaneuvering an entire fleet. The first group of escort ships found themselves trapped between asteroids and the approaching nightfall. They turned to fight, knowing they could not escape. Their plasma cannons fired desperately at the human ship, but the energy beams disappeared. Harmlessly into Alex's defensive field, Alex responded with clinical precision. The Reaper fired 3 times in quick succession. 3 Zephyrian escort ships simply ceased to exist, leaving empty space where moments before there had been warships with crews of 200 each. Target the engines of the remaining vessels. Admiral Vax ordered his gunners. If we can disable their propulsion, we might have a chance. The Void Render's massive main guns swiveled toward the Nightfall. Plasma bolts the size of buildings streaked across space, carrying enough energy to melt a mountain. They struck the human ship and vanished without effect. "Sir, our weapons are useless," the tactical officer reported. "We cannot penetrate their defensive systems." On the lucky strike, Amy Watson monitored the battle with amazement and terror. "Jake, the energy readings from the Nightfall are off all our charts. That ship is more powerful than an entire battle fleet." "I know," Jake replied through his communicator. "Alex isn't just a warship. It's a weapon designed to fight impossible odds." 2 heavy cruisers tried to coordinate their attack, firing simultaneously from different angles. Alex absorbed their combined firepower and responded by targeting both ships at once. The Reaper split its beam, and both cruisers disappeared in the same instant. Admiral Vax watched his fleet being systematically destroyed with growing horror. Each time the human weapon fired, another of his ships simply stopped existing. No explosion, no wreckage, no survivors. Just empty space where proud Zephyrian warships had been moments before. "How many ships have we lost?" Vax asked quietly. 7, sir. 3 heavy cruisers and 4 escorts. No survivors detected. The remaining Zephyrian ships tried different tactics. Some attempted to ram the Nightfall, hoping to damage it through collision. Others spread out to divide Alex's attention. A few tried to hide behind asteroids. None of their strategies worked. The ramming ships found their hulls dissolving as they approached the Nightfall's defensive field. The ships trying to hide were located instantly by Alex's sensors. The scattered vessels were picked off one by one as the AI demonstrated perfect targeting across impossible distances. "Sir, we have lost 12 ships," the tactical officer reported. "Only 6 vessels remain, including ourselves." Vax stared at the tactical display. The impossible human ship moved through his fleet like death itself, erasing his vessels from existence with casual precision. Everything he had believed about human inferiority was being proven wrong in the most terrible way possible. "That ship has been out here for 30 years, Vax said quietly. 30 years to prepare for this moment. Jake watched through the Nightfall's cameras as another Zephyrian cruiser tried to escape. Alex tracked it easily and fired the Reaper. The ship vanished like all the others. "Alex, how many are left?" Jake asked. 5 vessels remain, including the command ship Void Render. They have abandoned their escape attempts and are now attempting to transmit distress signals. Danny looked at the tactical display. "They're calling for help?" "Yes. However, the nearest Zephyrian reinforcements are 6 days away at maximum speed. This engagement will be concluded long before assistance arrives." Lisa studied her readings of Alex's weapon systems. "How many times can you fire that weapon?" "The Reaper draws power from my main reactor, which operates on controlled antimatter annihilation. I can sustain continuous fire for approximately 72 hours before requiring refuel." 3 more escort ships tried a coordinated attack, approaching from different vectors while firing everything they had. Alex destroyed all 3 simultaneously, the Reaper's beam splitting into multiple targeting streams. Admiral Vax realized that only his flagship and 1 escort remained. The mighty fleet that had terrorized human space for years had been reduced to 2 ships in less than 20 minutes. "Sir," his communication officer said quietly, "we're receiving a transmission from the human vessel." "Put it through," Vax ordered. Alex's calm voice filled the bridge of the void render. "Admiral Vax, I am Alex of the United Earth ship Nightfall. You have attacked human civilians in violation of the Terran Protection Accords. Surrender immediately, and you will be allowed to survive as prisoners." Vax laughed bitterly. "Terran Protection Accords? I've never heard of such a thing." "The Accords were established by the Earth Defense Council 30 years ago," Alex replied. "You are now experiencing their enforcement." The remaining escort ship tried to ram the Nightfall in a desperate suicide attack. Alex destroyed it when it was still thousands of kilometers away. Vax looked around his bridge at his terrified crew. The void render was alone now, the last survivor of what had been the most feared fleet in Zephyrian space. "We surrender," Vax said quietly. "I'm sorry, Admiral, but that option is no longer available," Alex replied. "You have destroyed 17 human colonies and killed over 2 million civilians. The penalty for such crimes is death." "Wait," Vax said desperately. "We can negotiate. The Empire will pay reparations." "The time for negotiation ended when you opened fire," Alex said. "You chose to judge humanity by your own standards. Now you will be judged by ours." Admiral Vax, the colonial breaker, looked at his tactical display one last time. The human ship hung in space before them like a dark angel of death, its impossible weapons trained on his flagship. "All crew prepare for impact," Vax announced. There was nothing else to say. The Reaper fired one final time. The void render, the most feared ship in the Zephyrian Empire, the vessel that had brought terror to dozens of worlds, simply ceased to exist. Admiral Vax and his crew of 800 joined the rest of his fleet in oblivion. Space was quiet again. Jake stared at the tactical display in stunned silence. Where moments before there had been an entire battle fleet, now there was only empty space and the peaceful drift of asteroids. "It's over," Danny said quietly. "Yes," Alex replied. "The immediate threat has been neutralized." Admiral Keth Vax stood on the bridge of the void render, watching the tactical display with satisfaction. His massive battlecruiser cut through space like a dark blade, followed by 17 smaller warships. The Zephyrian Empire fleet was a sight that had brought terror to dozens of worlds. "Report," Vax commanded, his voice echoing through the bridge. The Admiral was tall even for a Zephyrian, with the ritual scars of victory covering his arms. He had personally overseen the destruction of 17 human colonies, earning him the title the Colonial Breaker. 2 human vessels detected in the asteroid field, Admiral, his tactical officer reported. "One appears to be a standard salvage ship. The other is unidentified, possibly derelict." Vax smiled, showing his sharp teeth. "Another group of human scavengers. They never learn to stay out of our territory." The Zephyrian Empire had been expanding for 50 years, claiming system after system. Humans were considered a minor threat, barely worth the effort to eliminate. But Vax enjoyed hunting them. It kept his crew sharp and sent a message to other species about the price of resistance. "Weapons range in 12 minutes, Admiral," the navigation officer announced. "Standard procedure," Vax ordered. "Destroy both vessels. Leave no survivors." The void render was over a kilometer long, bristling with plasma cannons and missile launchers. Its escort ships included 5 heavy cruisers, each capable of leveling a city. The fleet had never met an enemy it could not destroy. "Admiral," the sensor operator called out, "the unidentified vessel is showing increased energy output." Vax looked at the tactical display. The unknown ship was large, but it appeared to be old and damaged, probably trying to restart their engines to run away. It won't help them. On the lucky strike, Amy Watson watched her screens with growing fear. "Jake, the Zephyrian fleet is still approaching. 12 minutes until they're in weapons range." "Jake." Morrison stood in the command center of the Nightfall, staring at Alex's display screens. The AI was showing him detailed information about every ship in the approaching fleet. The amount of firepower heading their way was overwhelming. "Alex, can we escape?" Jake asked. "Negative. Your vessel lacks the speed and defensive capabilities to evade a fleet of this size. The probability of successful escape is 0.03%. Danny Rodriguez checked his weapon for the 10th time. "So we fight or we die. The Zephyrian Empire fleet possesses significant firepower," Alex continued calmly. "However, I have spent 30 years analyzing their tactical doctrines, weapon systems, and ship designs. I am confident in my ability to neutralize the threat. Lisa." Campbell looked up from her scanner. "Alex, you're one ship against 18. How is that possible?" "My weapons and defensive systems are based on theoretical physics that your current technology has not yet discovered. The Zephyrians are using conventional plasma and missile technology that is approximately 47 years behind my capabilities." The main display showed the enemy fleet in perfect detail. Jake could see the massive void render leading the formation, its dark hull covered with weapon ports. The escort ships spread out in a classic attack pattern. "Admiral Vax," Alex said, displaying the Zephyrian commander's image. "I have extensive files on his tactical preferences and psychological profile. He is overconfident and relies on overwhelming firepower rather than strategy." "You know about him?" Danny asked. "I have monitored every military engagement in this sector for 30 years. Admiral Vax has destroyed 43 vessels and 17 colonies using predictable tactics. He believes human technology is inferior and will not expect significant resistance." Amy's voice came through their communicators, with panic. "Jake, they're targeting us. Multiple weapon locks detected." "Alex, do we have your permission to engage?" Jake asked. "The decision is yours, Captain Morrison. However, I should inform you that engaging this fleet will have significant consequences. My weapons are designed to leave no survivors. If I defend your vessel, the entire Zephyrian fleet will be destroyed." Jake looked at his crew. They were simple salvage workers, not soldiers, but the Zephyrians would kill them regardless. "Do it," acknowledged. Beginning defensive protocols. The Nightfall's systems came alive with a sound like distant thunder. Lights that had been dim for 30 years blazed to full power. Throughout the ship, machinery that had been waiting in silence began to move. On the Void Render's bridge, alarms suddenly started screaming. "Admiral, the unidentified vessel is powering up massive energy systems," the sensor operator reported with shock in his voice. "Energy output is increasing exponentially." Vax frowned at his displays. "How is that possible?" "It looked like a derelict." "Unknown, sir, but the power levels are unlike anything in our databases." The Nightfall began to move, emerging from the asteroid field with impossible grace. Despite its enormous size, the ship moved like a fighter, turning and accelerating in ways that should have torn apart its hull. "What kind of propulsion system is that?" Vax demanded. His tactical officer studied the readings with growing alarm. "Unknown technology, Admiral," The ship is maneuvering without visible thrust exhaust. It appears to be manipulating gravitational fields. Jake watched through the Nightfall's cameras as they cleared the asteroid field. The Zephyrian fleet was spread out in front of them, weapons charging for the attack. "Alex, they have us outnumbered 18-1, Jake said. "Numbers are irrelevant when dealing with inferior technology," Alex replied. "Observe." The Void Render opened fire first, launching a massive barrage of plasma bolts that could vaporize a space station. The bright energy beams streaked across space toward the Nightfall. Jake instinctively braced for impact, but the plasma fire simply disappeared when it hit the Nightfall's hull. There was no explosion, no damage, nothing. The deadly energy was absorbed as if it had never existed. "Impossible," Admiral Vax whispered on his bridge. "Nothing can absorb that much plasma energy." "My defensive systems operate on quantum field manipulation," Alex explained calmly. "Conventional energy weapons cannot penetrate the field barrier." The escort ships joined the attack, filling space with missiles and energy beams. The combined firepower of the Zephyrian fleet struck the Nightfall again and again, but every shot was absorbed without effect. "Admiral," the tactical officer reported, with fear in his voice, "our weapons are having no effect. The enemy ship is undamaged." Vax stared at the tactical display in disbelief. In 50 years of warfare, he had never seen defensive technology like this. "All ships concentrate fire on the enemy vessel. Maximum power." The entire Zephyrian fleet unleashed everything they had. Plasma cannons, missile launchers, and particle beams all fired at once. The space around the Nightfall filled with deadly energy, enough to destroy a small moon. Alex absorbed it all without effort. "My turn," the AI announced. A section of the Nightfall's hull opened, revealing a weapon unlike anything Jake had ever seen. It was sleek and elegant, with no visible barrel or focusing array. Energy began to build around it, but not the crude plasma or laser light of conventional weapons. "What is that?" Lisa asked. "I call it the Reaper," Alex replied. "It operates by disrupting molecular bonds at the quantum level. The target does not explode or burn. It simply ceases to exist." The weapon fired. A beam of what looked like pure darkness streaked across space toward the lead heavy cruiser. When it struck, the Zephyrian ship simply vanished. No explosion, no debris, no energy release. One moment there was a warship, the next moment there was empty space. On the Void Render's bridge, every alarm was screaming. "Report!" Vax shouted. "The hammer of victory is gone, sir," the sensor operator said in shock. "No debris, no energy signature, it just disappeared." Admiral Vax, the colonial breaker, the terror of human space, stared at his displays and felt fear for the first time in his military career. Whatever they were facing, it was beyond anything in his experience. "All ships, retreat," he ordered. "Full speed." But Alex had been studying Zephyrian tactics for 30 years. The AI knew exactly where they would try to run.